Mamie belle, la moustache et la capucha. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Sito patamilo, milata katiki takatiki. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Sito patamilo, milata katiki punetika. Mamie belle, la moustache et la capucha.
What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show, and today is the Sports Rundown. Of course, Fridays are always the Sports Rundown, and this week today I actually have a long list for the Sports Rundown. So we're gonna start with Sports Rundown. Topic number 1. The Caps keep falling. I told y'all in my last Sports Rundown, the Caps were not going to make the playoffs. They're now 7 games out of the wild card spot. They're not going to make the playoffs. Spencer Carberry is still trying to get this lineup together. And we see Ovechkin inch closer to that points, that goal scores total. So come next year, Alex Ovechkin more than likely will hit that goal total. And he'll be retired before the Caps and the Wizards move out to Virginia. That's going to be something big because now Ted Leonsis is going to have to try his best to get people over to that stadium, which they say will be 19,000 seats, which is kind of crazy because the current stadium, the current arena is 21-something thousand seats. So the fact that he's going to a smaller stadium, and more than likely he won't have a star player to go with him or an impact player like Alex Ovechkin to be there, it's going to be something to see what happens when they build that new arena out there in Virginia. So, like I said, Caps keep falling. They're not making the playoffs. This is it for the Caps. The season is over with. Pretty much it's just the Ovechkin watch to see how much closer he can get to the goals record. And then more than likely he'll probably break it next year. So, that's topic number 1. Topic number 2. NFL honors. Of course, we knew this was coming up. It's the regular season honors. So what happened is Lamar Jackson got his second NFL MVP, rightfully so. He was great in the regular season. Didn't show up as much in the playoffs against the Kansas City Chiefs, but again, that was a tough game. Didn't seem like it was a game that was in their favor. I did pick the Chiefs to win because I did feel that the NFL couldn't have the Ravens in the Super Bowl because it would have been a blowout. So, but the Ravens also didn't help themselves. So, again, like I said, Lamar Jackson, without a shadow of a doubt, was the best quarterback in the league this year. So, rightfully so. He's still very young and already got his second NFL MVP. So, we will be seeing him in the Super Bowl soon. But like I said again, for this to be his second NFL MVP, we don't see repeat winners of the NFL MVP that often. So the fact that he's got his second and he's still really young, kudos to him. Next is the Offensive Player of the Year. That went to Christian McCaffrey. Again, all-purpose scrimmage yards. He actually had a ball of a season. Was also in contention for the NFL MVP, but wasn't. I mean, he missed games this year. And a lot of that has to do with that. But again, he still had a bunch of yardage like he always does, a bunch of touchdowns, because at one point he was leading the league in touchdowns. So I mean, he had a fantastic season, and for that, yes, he should be winning the Offensive Player of the Year. It's almost kind of funny because it's almost like that award that how does it not go to the NFL MVP as well. But again, like you said, when you think of offensively, yeah, Christian McCaffrey had a big offensive season. So, yeah, it was well deserving. Next is the one that was kind of controversial. Myles Garrett got Defensive Player of the Year. A lot of people are talking about, TJ Watt sat up there and made a post about it and things like that. And Michael Parsons defended Myles Garrett. I will say this. Nowadays, there's too much recognition going to guys who predominantly play on the right side of the line. Historically, the best athlete on the offensive line has always been the guy who plays left tackle, right? So players like TJ Watt, T.J. Watt, Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, a lot of them get the benefit of playing on the right side of the line. So they, most of the time, they're going up against less athletic players. You know, like they'll go against somebody like an Andrew Wiley or Samuel Cosme. You know, people who aren't that good or skilled at the tackle position. And they've benefited from playing on that right side of the line. Whereas players that have a more difficult time are the ones that predominantly line up on the left side, which brings to Myles Garrett, who normally plays on the left side of the line. So he's always facing competition. Now, there are times that they switch him to the right side, but most of the time, Myles Garrett lines up on the left side, which means he's always facing the best player on the offensive line. So because of that, rightfully so, the Cleveland defense was very good this year. Very, very good. And Myles Garrett actually had a really, really good and fantastic season. Now, yeah, T.J. Watt did have more sacks than him, but again, still, you can't take away the fact that him playing on that left side of the line is very valuable. Like I said, if you put people like Max Crosby and T.J. Watt and Nick Bosa and let them predominantly play on the left side, we probably wouldn't be talking about them as much as we do. So again, a lot of guys get the benefit of playing on the right side of the line and getting the recognition and the numbers and all that, facing lesser competition in comparison to being predominantly on the left side and having to face what is basically considered the best offensive lineman on the team. So, yeah, so again, Myles Garrett, rightfully so, he deserved it. Next, of course, is Offensive Rookie of the Year. That goes to C.J. Stroud. Fantastic season as a rookie. Went to the right team. Seems to be developing very well. He was a guy that I said, you know, him and Bryce Young, they both were the most accurate quarterbacks in that draft. So, I mean, the fact that he did well is not a surprise. But the fact that he did well for the Houston Texans is what is the surprise there. And I'll get to that a little bit later too, when in reference to their coach. But I mean, he had a phenomenal rookie year, a year that we don't see out of rookies that often, especially rookie quarterbacks. So the fact that he had that phenomenal of a year, yes, he's absolutely deserving of the Offensive Rookie of the Year award. So again, congratulations to C.J. Stroud. Fantastic job. Next is the Defensive Rookie of the Year, and that went to his teammate, and Will Anderson, who also put up a fantastic year. Even though he had 7 sacks, that doesn't mean much of nothing because, again, Chase Young had 7 sacks, and he won Defensive Rookie of the Year. But Will Anderson made a huge impact on that team. And, again, he contributed a whole lot to that team. So the fact that he was one of the most stellar players out there defensively, you can't doubt that he had a fantastic season. So for that, yeah, you got to give him Defensive Rookie of the Year. I'm not really certain how many. I mean, Devin Witherspoon had a good year, but he didn't have a standout year like Will Anderson did. So for that, yeah, definitely Will Anderson, definitely Defensive Rookie of the Year. Next is Comeback Player of the Year, and that went to Joe Flacco. Rightfully deserved it. Was able to get Cleveland into the playoffs and everything, but had a poor playoff game. But again, this is for the regular season. So Joe Flacco did exactly what he needed to do to keep Cleveland in the hunt, especially when Deshaun Watson went down, and the fact that he was able to keep them ahead, keep them afloat, and get them into the playoffs. He did a fantastic job. So for that, I do agree. You know, Comeback Player of the Year definitely goes to Joe Flacco. Last but not least, and another controversial pick, Kevin Stefanski wins Coach of the Year. I personally felt that there were 2 guys who were more deserving of the award than Kevin Stefanski. Don't get me wrong, Cleveland did play well. They did play good. They were a different team. But what Dan Campbell and what DeMeco Ryans did with let's talk about Dan Campbell first. What Dan Campbell's quest to where Detroit is right now, he's done a fantastic job building up this team, because year one we were all like, I don't know how good this is, but I was also a person that said he has one of the best coaching staffs of former players on this staff. He had maybe a few people who weren't former players, but again, it was like he had collected the best of the best, and you can see that they're very good at developing the talent that's there. But in the sense of, like Dan Campbell should have really been considered. DeMeco Ryans should have won this award. I mean, to take a team from worst to first, absolutely incredible, with a rookie quarterback, with a rookie offensive coordinator, he himself being a rookie head coach. That what the Houston Texans did was beyond amazing. Not only that, you're talking about Will Anderson, the offensive rookie of the year and the defensive rookie of the year, both were on the Texans. So that is a huge testament to DeMeco Ryans. And contrary to what most people believe, I really do feel DeMeco Ryans should have won this award. To take that Houston Texans team that was lacking in talent in a lot of places, for him to sit up there, take that team, and have that team not only win their division, get into the playoffs, win a game, and then basically like look pretty good when it came down to it. So again, like I said, I am impressed. I'm impressed, and I do feel that DeMeco Ryans, he should have won this award instead of Kevin Stefanski. I get it. Again, Kevin Stefanski did have a good year, but I do feel that DeMeco Ryans did a way better job when you're talking about a team that was in last place just last year. And for him to basically eke out the offensive rookie of the year and the defensive rookie of the year on the same team, that's a huge testament to his coaching ability and the coaching staff he collected. So again, DeMeco Ryans, in my opinion, should have won it, but Kevin Stefanski wins Coach of the Year. Next topic, NFL Hall of Fame. This year was a very stacked year for the NFL. They actually let 7 people in this year. Normally they don't let that many in. But there are some big names that got in. So you're talking about Dwight Freeney got in, Andre Johnson, Julius Peppers, Patrick Willis, Steve McMichael. I remember Steve McMichael more as a wrestler than I do as an actual player, even though I've seen him play. But I just remember him more as a wrestler. And Devin Hester made it. As a Washington fan, I felt Brian Mitchell should have made it first before Devin Hester. Devin Hester makes it into the Hall of Fame for breaking Brian Mitchell's return records. So for returns for the touchdowns, returns on punts, like that, all those records were Brian Mitchell's records. So I really do feel that Brian Mitchell should have been in the Hall of Fame before Devin Hester. Brian Mitchell is still right now number 2 in all-purpose yards. So the fact that he's not in the Hall of Fame for everything he did, you're talking about this guy, Brian Mitchell, for basically his entire career was pretty much the premier return guy. So, and we're talking about not only kickoff returns, but punt returns as well. So the fact that Brian Mitchell is not in the Hall of Fame, I feel that the front office of the Commanders need to get on their job and do everything they can, because Devin Hester politicked himself into the Hall of Fame. He went on the Pivot podcast. He went on the Pivot podcast. He went on any podcast you could think of. I saw Devin Hester across all podcasts. He went to every podcast he could possibly go on. And he politicked himself into the Hall of Fame. The same thing needs to happen with Brian Mitchell. They need to, our front office and our advertising people, whoever it is, our public, whoever people is, they need to do everything they can to get Brian Mitchell and London Fletcher into the Hall of Fame. They both are greatly deserving of the Hall of Fame, and both of them are fantastic players. Same thing, I know Joe Jacoby, his time is getting longer, so he's more than likely going to be voted in by the senior group, the senior committee. But again, like I said, Brian Mitchell needs to be in the Hall of Fame. And maybe Devin Hester making it opens the door for Brian Mitchell to make it maybe next year. But again, we have to do everything we can to get Brian Mitchell into the Hall of Fame. Another notable guy that is missing from the Hall of Fame, and I know people might find him controversial. I don't, because according to some of the rules when it comes to the Hall of Fame, one of their criteria is that you had to be a dominant or top player during your era. Donovan McNabb is still not in the Hall of Fame. And I feel that that's a travesty, because if it wasn't for Donovan McNabb and Andy Reid, the Philadelphia Eagles wouldn't be the team that they are even right now. That's all legacy from them. I remember when Donovan McNabb was booed on draft day, because if everybody remembers, the Philadelphia Eagles fan base wanted them to draft Ricky Williams. And imagine what would have happened to that team if they did draft Ricky Williams that year instead of Donovan McNabb. And understand, Andy Reid just keeps winning each time he gets an opportunity when it comes to picking quarterbacks. And Donovan McNabb was his first guy. So again, like I said, Donovan McNabb should be in the Hall of Fame. Remember, he was also, I think in 2002, he was the third quarterback to get that $100 million contract. So he actually was a very great quarterback. And I just think that as time goes on, people need to sit up there and really consider Donovan McNabb for the Hall of Fame. He's deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. I understand he didn't win a Super Bowl, but he performed well enough to, one, get his team to a Super Bowl, and not only that, contend for another one. So again, like I said, Donovan McNabb should be in the Hall of Fame. Brian Mitchell should be in the Hall of Fame. So we'll see where it goes, because we're going to have to politic a lot, even when it comes to a person like Santana Moss. Santana Moss he has high numbers too, and he should be considered for the Hall of Fame as well. So we'll see how this goes. But again, congratulations to all the Hall of Famers. They're all deserving to be in. This isn't one of those things where you can pick out a guy and say he don't deserve to be there. All these guys are rightfully deserving to be there. So congratulations to all the Hall of Famers. The next story, NBA trade deadline happens. Not a lot of really big notable names got traded. Pat Beverly goes from I think he went from the 76ers to the Bucks. That was a good trade for the Bucks, because Pat Beverly brings more defense. And with gearing up for the upcoming playoffs, you want that guy who's able to pretty much kind of take out one of the players when it comes to defensively take out a guy. So this is a good trade for the Bucks. For your Wizards, the crazy thing about this is that they trade Daniel Gafford and in return get a first round pick, which is crazy. But even though the draft pick is for, I think it's 2023, the fact that they were still able to get a first round pick out of that is absolutely amazing. And I have to commend the front office for pulling that off. Now, we talked about how the Wizards are bad at defense. They're about to get even worse, because Daniel Gafford was their best defender. So they're now about to get even worse than they were at first. I know they made this move to get Bagley on the court as a starter, but I always felt that they should have started both of them together. But we'll see how it goes. It's sad that they weren't able to get Jordan Poole out of here, but it is what it is. But the fact that you were able to snatch a first round pick out of another team, that's absolutely amazing. We didn't even get that for Bill, and Bill lit us up just recently. So that is just absolutely amazing. Next, Austin Rivers on Bronny James. So Austin Rivers had a comment where he talked about Bronny James should go somewhere else to get out of the shadow of his dad. I agree to some extent, but I need to say this about Bronny James and LeBron James. So, to me, Bronny James, in my opinion, is technically a reflection of his father. Like, how many times have we talked about LeBron sitting up there and not showing that killer instinct? He only shows it when he's mad at somebody or when he's upset and all that. And he never shows a competitive nature until it's forced on him. Bronny, to me, comes off as something like that. He's to me, he comes off a little like that as well. And it came to the forefront for me when I saw him in the McDonald's All-American dunk contest, where he was out there in a dunk contest where guys were really trying their best to win this dunk contest, and he's trying to make these elaborate dunks still with his warm-up pants on. And to me, I don't know if it's one of those things where they asked him to do it or he wanted to do it or whatever it was. I just feel he doesn't bring that killer instinct either. Like, he's basically learned from his father that you don't have to turn it on all the time. And I think that for most of us, that's what's troubling the most, because and in comparison, there's another kid out there that to me looks better than Bronny James, and he's younger than him, and that's Gilbert Arenas' son. Gilbert Arenas' son has way more tools than Bronny does at his age. And once Gilbert's son get to college and all that type of stuff, we're going to see a different player that has a lot of skills available to him. Not only that, he doesn't really look like he's taking plays off. He looks like he's playing at all times. So to see Bronny James kind of seem almost lackadaisical about basketball, I wonder how committed he is to playing basketball. Is it a thing where he's only doing it because it builds a bond with his dad, or does he really want to play? Because even watching some of his games at USC, he doesn't really UCLA, USC or UCLA. I think it's USC. Can't remember what school it is. I think it's whichever school it is. I think it's UCLA. You notice that he doesn't seem like he's really motivated to play. And he almost comes off as a kid that if he's not playing basketball, it wouldn't be any big deal to him. So I do feel that LeBron had, and I'm not saying this is anything bad against LeBron or anything, but I do feel that the killer instinct that LeBron has displayed and show a willingness not to show all the time has somehow trickled down to his son, who also shows that lack of killer instinct as well. It doesn't mean he's not good or could be good or might get better and things like that. It's just that there's a lot of tools that he still needs to be a top NBA player. Again, everybody's making the NBA now, but you would like for him to show a little bit more passion for the game, a little bit more intensity for the game, because I do feel that he could be really good. But again, I think that he's just displaying some of the traits that his dad has shown, that lack of killer instinct. So again, this is no shade to LeBron James. This is just an observation about his son kind of not seeming like he's as motivated as the dad. Next is the talk about the NIL killing college sports and the college game and all this type of stuff. The NIL is not a problem at all. These coaches don't hate the NIL. These coaches aren't pissed off at the NIL. These coaches aren't in a situation where the NIL makes such a big deal. The problem with college sports and what most coaches really do hate is the transfer portal. That's what they hate. I could care less. I think the transfer portal is fine. I think NIL is fine. they hate the transfer portal. They don't hate NIL. They're using the NIL as a means to mask the fact that they hate the transfer portal. See, what happens is that they hated the transfer portal way before NIL came into play. They hated the transfer portal because of the fact that it was easier to stash really good players on your team, and if that player wanted to leave, he had to sit out a year before he can play the following year, which most times hurts football players. When you sit out a year, it's hard to get back into that rhythm of playing of live football. So again, they're more upset with the transfer portal than they are with the NIL, because there are several examples at where guys stayed or left because the opportunity wasn't there. It wasn't about NIL money. It was because the opportunity wasn't there. Prime example, we can talk about Texas, right? Malik Murphy transfers to Ohio State because all the talk is about Arch Manning getting the opportunity to start in Texas. So, of course, a quarterback is going to transfer. It wasn't about NIL money. It was about the fact of getting an opportunity. Quinn Ewers was getting ready to transfer. They gave him more NIL money for him to not transfer. So that had nothing to do with NIL money. That had everything to do with the fact that guys want to go get opportunities and they want to be able to transfer. And what's happening now, the same thing applied to Cam Ward. Cam Ward transfers from Washington State because why? Washington State, the Pac-12 disintegrated. Washington State wasn't picked up by the the Big Ten. It wasn't picked up by the Big 12. It wasn't picked up by the SEC, and it wasn't picked up by the ACC. So it's a school that's out in limbo on its own. So Cam Ward transfers to Miami so he can be seen on TV and at the same time be able to sit up there and be seen by college scouts who aren't at all of the games. So again, the NIL has nothing to do with anything. If that's the point, why, if the NIL was such a big deal, why is nobody complaining about Caitlin Clark? Caitlin Clark is more than likely making way more NIL money than most of these male college football players, and probably more than most of the male college basketball players. So if you want to complain about the NIL, complain about everybody getting NIL. You know, there are a lot of sports that NIL money may not be necessary for. I mean, this might be a little controversial because I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of people who sit up there and their kids played or they played. But lacrosse, NIL money isn't needed for lacrosse players because it's not that big of a sport. And again, for those who have kids in it, who play it and they played themselves, you have to come to the grips to understand that I'm not one of one when I'm talking about lacrosse. I'm not one of one when I talk about swimming. Nobody cares about swimming until the Olympics or when the World Championships come around. That's it. Nobody really cares about golf, especially college golf. Nobody cares about that until all of them turn pro. Like there's certain things that NIL money is not needed for. And sometimes it comes to that point. But again, this is not about the NIL. It's not about the NIL. The NIL is just easy to attack. No, what these coaches hate is the transfer portal. Because now, again, like I said, they get to stash these players they used to be able to stash really, really good players. Understand, if the transfer portal wasn't around, Malik Murphy, Quinn Ewers, and Arch Manning would all be at Texas right now. And Malik Murphy and Quinn Ewers would be struggling to get a real opportunity to go play somewhere and raise their draft stock. So they're not mad at NIL. They're mad at the transfer portal. So what I say about that, shut it up. Be okay with it. Look at it as NFL free agency and keep it moving. Even though it's not that, because again, guys just want to get an opportunity. So at the end of the day, they can go wherever they want. Should it be for money or not for money? Next is Kobe Bryant statue is revealed it was a very nice statue. It wasn't the statue that I thought he should have they should have made. I thought they were going to give him the winged statue where I think it was the finals win, where he had the ball in one hand and he was kind of arched backwards and stuff like that. I thought that was going to be the statue. The statue they revealed was the 81-point game statue. So either way, it's still a really nice statue. Really, really nice statue. Came out very nice. Very tall statue and everything. So the fact that they honored Kobe Bryant like they did is very, very good. A very smart thing to do. And I just wish they would have did the arm stretched statue over the 81-point statue. But again, that's just my preference. But either way, still a very good tribute to Kobe Bryant. Last but not least is my Super Bowl pick. Of course, when it comes down to it, these Super Bowl picks is what it is. I think this is going to be a good game, but I do feel that at the end of the day, it's going to come down to whose defense is better. And I talked about this before. I told y'all the Super Bowl, the playoffs was going to come down to the champions at the defense wins championships. The statement defenses win championships was going to be very prominent in this upcoming Super Bowl. And with that being said, I definitely see a big win by a certain team. So I'm going to break both teams down. Like, I'm going to start with the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs, they've been marching through these playoffs like it's nothing. They seem like they have a goal in place, and their goal is Super Bowl or bust. Like, they look like a team that refuses to lose, and they've been playing against really solid teams and putting up big numbers against the teams. You're talking about they sat up there and blew out the Dolphins like it was nothing, then followed that up with beating the Ravens. So it's one of those things where this team looks like a team that's on a march to bigger success. And again, you're talking about Patrick Mahomes will still be a young quarterback, and it will, if he wins, it'll be his third Super Bowl win. So they have a team that's pretty solid and complete. Now, their wide receivers may not be great, but they're effective. And even when it comes to Travis Kelce, for the life of me, it seems like nobody knows how to defend him. Nobody knows how to stop him. He's always open at some point, and that Patrick Mahomes is able to find him. So with that being said, I mean, I'm looking at Kansas City. They look good offensively. They look good defensively. And they've put on a showcase when it's come to these playoffs. And now we're in the championship game. And I don't think that will subside, because they have been playing very strong football. So, like I said, to me, when it comes down to it, the Kansas City Chiefs look very good. Now, on the other side, you got the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy is still on his journey to being one of the best, one of the top quarterbacks, and yet being the guy who was almost an undrafted free agent. One pick from being an undrafted free agent. So, again, San Francisco is a very solid team. Now, I will say this. They're solid. They have very good defensive players. They have very good offensive players. Christian McCaffrey, again, Offensive Player of the Year. He's going to be in the game, and he's shown that he can be a threat and a problem. The same thing applies to Deebo Samuel and a lot of Ayuk. But again, you're talking about a very good offensive team led by a quarterback who might not be a game changer, but he is a game manager that handles the game very well when it comes to getting the ball down the field, getting the ball out of his hands, and doing all the things that he's supposed to do. On the defensive side of the ball, you're talking about Fred Warner and Drake Greenlaw are playing out of their minds. I mean, I'm surprised that neither one of them were considered for Defensive Player of the Year and could have possibly won it. These guys have been on the march as well and been playing very well out of their minds. The San Francisco 49ers secondary has been a little sketchy. Hufanga has been out, so it's not the same secondary And not only that, they've let teams go up on them. So here's the thing with the 49ers. You're talking about through these playoffs, and I said the same thing about Detroit Lions. The difference is that now it's the opposite with the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers have found a way to go down in games early. You know, they were down 21 to, I think it was 21 to nothing to the Green Bay Packers. Then they were down 24 to nothing to the 24 to 7. I think it was 24 to 7 to the Detroit Lions. So they end up going down, but they end up finding a way to battle back. The problem is that if they go down to the Kansas City Chiefs, it will be hard for them to battle back and beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And for that, my Super Bowl winner for this upcoming Super Bowl is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they jump on the San Francisco 49ers early. We're going to see the 49ers sit up there and do what they've been doing the whole playoffs, let teams go up on them. The problem is they're not going to be able to battle back enough because the Kansas City Chiefs are just going to outscore them, and their defense is going to play very well and keep them out of the end zone. So for that, I feel the Kansas City Chiefs will beat the San Francisco 49ers in this upcoming Super Bowl. I'll give the score 42-31. Y'all tell me what y'all think. How did y'all like this sports rundown? Tell me what y'all think of any topics on the sports rundown. How do y'all feel about some of these topics? Other than that, this has been your man John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.